Underground Cellar, and so excited that you can be here to join us. We are very excited to have a very special guest with us in the office, and his name is Keith Webster. And Keith comes from Keith M. Webster Cellars, where he's a winemaker, and in fact, we have some of his wine here today.
Starting to drink early.
We emailed out to our VIPs this morning, and we posed the question: if you had any question for a Napa Valley winemaker, what would you ask? Is there a question that you've been dying to know the answer to? Maybe a stumper you might have for Keith?
Or I hope not. I don't like being stumped, man.
Well, that's our goal, but I'm sure you'll
stump the winemaker. Are you serious?
Well, let's name the segment. Stump the winemaker.
You didn't tell me that.
No, not really. But we have some of Keith's wines on our website today in our special Napa Valley Cabs offer. And so I'd first like to open the floor up to Keith a little bit, and if you could sort of help myself and everyone at home watching understand, how did you get into wine, and what does wine mean to you?
I got into wine because I started drinking very early, like about 8.
Wow,
which is pretty early. But I was living in Europe. I have French godparents, and spent a lot of time in France. And you start drinking wine early when you're living in France. I mean, you're starting to drink at dinner all the time, a 50-50 wine-water mix, and pretty soon you graduate. And my father was a spy for the government.
Really?
He was. And so we spent a lot of time in all the areas. At that time, it was the Cold War, obviously. And, we spent a lot of time in places that were close to the Russians, basically, at that point.
Are you gonna have to kill me after this? I feel like you've said enough. No,
actually, I have a pass because the president of the United States, not the current one, but the last one, gave me the ability to say what he did. But he was just kind of an electronic spy. Yeah. And so anyway, we started drinking wines really early, and we had lots of friends in Spain, and Italy, and France. We were in France a lot, and so I drank a lot of wines, and that's kind of where I got my start in the wine drinking aspect of it. And we moved back to the States. I was at a formative age in high school. You're not supposed to be drinking in high school, but I've been drinking for a long time, and so we just kept drinking. And the wines in this country were not that great. And I mean, at that time I'd been drinking for a decade. And so I had a really interesting palate built up. And I used to complain about the wines in this country a lot, and the lack of ability to get good wines. And I finally just got, people just said, put up or shut up. If you think you can make better wine, why don't you do it? And I said, okay, I will. And I did.
And so what year was that? So what year did you decide you're going to bottle your first vintage?
Well, I started making garage wine in Colorado. I was living in Aspen at the time, and was making literally garage wine. I mean, I had this big garage and had wine in all sorts of places.
Literally in your garage.
Literally, I mean, it's the true garagista.
Because there's that term in the wine industry, a garagiste,
right?
Which it sort of means someone who makes a small amount of wine in their garage. But you literally were in your garage.
Dude, I have pictures of me with 5-gallon jugs all over my 3-car garage, and just in various stages of fermentation and, bottling by hand and all that stuff. And the wine was decent. It wasn't great because I couldn't get access to good grapes.
Yeah.
So and I was at that time I was in the construction business, and I was pretty successful in the construction business in Aspen. The construction business fell apart in 2008 completely. I started getting some projects out here in California. Plus, I had enrolled to go to UC Davis. UC Davis accepted me, so I was going to Davis. Then I was doing projects out here, and it just things rolled into the next thing. Well, I'm moving out here, and I bought my first grapes in 2009. Totally on a fluke. I had no idea. Have you ever wanted to buy something and not really knowing what the market value was and bought some really expensive shit and thought that you got a really good deal?
Yeah, I could imagine.
I did. I bought really expensive grapes, thought I got a great deal, and I made this incredible wine, which I thought was great. You know, it was kept in barrel for 3 years. I did everything I wanted to, let it out to a couple friends. They said, hey, this is pretty good stuff, man. You know, can we buy some? I said, oh, sure, you know. Hey, I've got some friends, you know, can they buy some? Oh, sure, you know. And I made 100 cases, which I had no idea at the time how many grapes I'd actually bought. I mean, I bought 1.5 tons. Thinking, no, that sounds like a good number.
Yeah.
You know, whatever. And so it made 100 cases of wine, and it sold out in 90 days.
Wow.
Gone. I mean, everybody just like gobbled it up.
So much better than your garage wine.
I'd say it was marginally better than my garage wine, by a huge margin.
So I've got to chime in here because we had a question actually from Shelly S from Texas, and Shelly's question was, what types of grapes can you use in a wine? Which, you know, kind of relates to what you just said, because you mentioned that when you're doing your garage wine, the grapes weren't very good.
Right.
But then you sort of, you know, spent an arm and a leg to get good grapes for your 100 case bottling.
Correct.
So what was the difference between those grapes? And, you know, like, will the grapes that you find just like at a supermarket work if you were to ferment them?
Yeah, they actually will. You can make wine out of almost anything. I mean, anything that has sugar in it will make wine, because wine, basically the chemistry is this: anything that's got sugar in it, yeast loves. Sugar plus yeast equals carbon dioxide plus alcohol. Carbon dioxide goes here, alcohol stays in. Then you have wine. Now, how you deal with that concoction is then sort of where the magic happens. I mean, but when you're talking about grapes and grapes qualities, you could literally go buy table grapes that you buy, like the green ones or the red ones, squish them up, throw them in a jar. They probably have some yeast on them naturally. Almost all grapes do. Almost all foods do. Almost fruits do. But then you throw a little yeast in there, and it'll ferment. And when the fermentation stops, it's dry, is what dry wine is. There's no residual sugar, which is also commonly called RS, residual sugar, RS.
Gotcha.
Good. That's really technical.
Is that like bricks though? Because I've also seen the term bricks, BRIX.
Bricks is a 4-letter word.
Oh, we don't use that around here?
For me, no. It's interesting. Everybody uses bricks. When you go to buy grapes, a lot of times, what you'll do is you'll write a contract for grapes and say, I won't buy the grapes unless they reach X bricks. And that's what drives a whole lot of the winemaking style especially in Napa County right now. I mean, Napa, people get the bricks level, which is their actual percentage of sugar in the grape. So the higher the number is the percentage. 23% is 23 bricks. And it's a scale that was put together by really testing my
A stumper. Do we get a stumper?
I'll say this: it was a foreign guy.
Okay.
Who came up with that name?
All right.
And so you didn't stump me. I know what bricks are, but I just can't remember the guy's name. So yeah, I guess.
So bricks is a direct relation to how sweet the wine is.
Not how sweet the wine is, how much alcohol will be produced by the wine.
Oh, so grapes that have high bricks, if they ferment for a long time, that sugar transforms into alcohol.
Correct.
Which means that bottle has a higher opportunity to be more alcoholic than one that has lower bricks.
Correct. There's actually a formula. 0.55 times your bricks will give you your approximate alcohol. Now that's just approximate in the field. So you check your bricks in the field. Say you have, and I'll get my calculator out here. Say you have 28 bricks in the field. All right. So you go to 28 times 0.55. It's going to give you alcohol of approximately 15.4.
Show the camera.
15.4%. That's just approximate.
And does that mean then that half of the sugar in that wine had converted to alcohol and the other
100% of it did?
Okay.
But there's just a ratio of sugar to alcohol production.
Interesting. Okay.
So that's what you use your bricks for.
Do you remember what your bricks was on that first bottling that you did?
I do. I had a very old vineyard. I mean, old vineyards don't usually produce as ripe a fruit as early. And I had one of the oldest vineyards on Diamond Mountain.
Wow.
And it was full. The vines had some diseases, not life-threatening diseases like Ebola, but it was just what they call leaf roll. And so they struggled to produce 23 and a half bricks. So my bricks were between 22, 23 and a half. My alcohol ended up being about 13.6.
Oh, okay.
Okay. Now, it changes a little bit. Different clusters will have different bricks, different grapes. You go through and you pick a bunch of grapes, you squish them up, you check the bricks on them, and that's how you do your brick test. It's a random sampling.
Okay, so then in that first bottling that you did, what was the name of that wine?
It was Keith and Webster Cellars Vintner's Reserve, not the left back, and it was a claret because it was a lighter vintage. So we actually called it a claret. We got in trouble by the feds. Yeah, we weren't allowed to use that, although I did use it.
Because claret is a regulated term. Is that right?
Yes.
Okay, interesting.
Although technically speaking, it's a common term used by the British to describe any lighter bodied French Bordeaux wine, especially the ones that were used in the British Navy. And
because your grapes came from California, you couldn't call it that?
Because it wasn't French, and I didn't, and I wasn't grandfathered. If you had, before 1991, if you'd been using the term claret, you could continue to use it. But then they made a treaty with the French, and the French said you can't use claret anymore unless you've been using on the label.
Interesting. Okay. So that actually ties into another question that we received this morning from Debbie G. And Debbie G asks, what does reserve mean on a bottle? And is it a regulated term? And what does reserve mean to you, even if it is or isn't regulated? And what does reserve mean to you when you put it on your bottle? Because one of the bottles that we have on Underground Cellar today has the word reserve on the bottle.
My reserve wine, exactly.
Okay.
Start with what does reserve mean on a bottle? In the United States of America, it means absolutely nothing. There is an unregulated term. Anybody can call any wine that they want a reserve wine. Now, in foreign countries, for instance, in Italy, if you want to call a wine a reserve and you're in the Chianti, it has to be bottled for a minimum of 3 years. Barrel for a minimum of 3 years. So in other areas of the winemaking world, it is highly regulated, what you can call a reserve. Most winemakers, their ad hoc definition is if it's something that they think is special, they will call it their reserve wine. I call mine reserve because of the way I treat the wine once it goes into barrel.
So you guys see this bottle. It has the word reserve on it. So it says Vintner's Reserve, which means that if this is your reserve, you basically went through when you were bottling these and said, these grapes or this juice is the best tasting out of all the juice that we have. And you're going to put those into this bottle?
Correct. And not just put it in the bottle, but actually keep it longer in a different type of French oak. So what I do is I taste my wines. I'm very fungible when I have a program. I don't have a really strict regimented barrel program. I barrel my grapes, my juice, and then I taste them every month. And when the wine tastes right to me, I bottle it.
Awesome.
So what I was doing is I go through, and as I taste my barrels, and in each barrel, it's from a winemaking perspective, barrels have an incredible effect on the grapes and the juice. You can take 10 gallons, let's take 120 gallons of wine, juice, split it into 2 different barrels. Those barrels can be from the same cooper, they can be from Terranceau, they can be from the same forest, Allier, they can be the same toast level, which is how they actually fire the inside of the barrel and they actually toast the staves. They can be identical in the way they were made. And you can take that stuff and sit it in those 2 barrels side by side. And in a few months, you can taste this one and taste that one. And they taste 2 completely different barrels.
Interesting.
So I go through and I pick the ones I like the best. I have certain percentages that I pull aside. and then I take it and put it into different barrels and barrel it down for at least another year. So I put it into really expensive French oak barrels and barrel it down, and it lasts a whole other year before I even think about bottling.
And French oak compared to American oak, right?
Yep.
So people who are making wine will either put their juice into oak, American oak, or French oak, or they'll do like stainless steel. Or some people will just ferment directly in a bottle. Is that possible too?
No, you can't ferment in a bottle because it creates gas.
Oh, you get like a champagne out of it.
You get the CO2.
Okay.
Because that's the fermentation process. It creates alcohol and CO2. So you always want the fermentation to be complete before you bottle.
Okay, I gotcha.
Otherwise, it blows up.
So when you call this your reserve, it's the grapes and the juice that you feel is like slightly better, but
a lot better.
A lot better.
A lot better. I mean, it's far and away better. I think that's my personal opinion.
Okay.
And since I'm the winemaker, that's all that counts.
Yeah. But so the other thing that I noticed though, so can you Brian, can you hand me the left bank?
The big bottle?
Yeah, the big bottle left bank.
Here we go.
So one thing I also noticed is that we have your left bank, and then we have your reserve. Now these both have Cabernet in them.
Correct.
But one of them says Merlot and Cabernet, and the other one says Cabernet and Merlot. So does that mean that like you put different quantities of each grape in here?
That's a really good question.
I did my homework actually. I know the answer to it, but
oh, what's the answer? Yes, it does. What I do is I make red blend wines. I don't make anything out of a straight Cab or a straight Merlot. I again am very European style. The French Bordeaux style wines are made out of 5 grape varietals, maximum 5 grape varietals, and they're very regulated. They can only be those 5 grape varietals. That's Cabernet Sauvignon, Merlot, Petit Verdot, Cabernet Franc, and Malbec.
Oh, okay.
So a French Bordeaux can only have those 5 grapes in it, and the quantities and the ratios vary widely depending on the winemaker, and they vary widely. And this is not on your offering, but let me just say this: the left bank and the right bank. Those are the left bank and the right bank of the rivers in Bordeaux.
Okay.
And left bank style wines are predominantly Cabernet. So the left bank wine that you have here is 60% Cabernet Sauvignon, 30% Merlot, 5% Petit Verdot, and 5% Cab Franc. Okay, so that's gives you a completely different flavor profile than both my right bank and my reserve. Both of those have in the neighborhood of 54, 55% Merlot, 34, 35% Cabernet, and then 4 to 6% Petit Verdot, 4 to 6% Cab Franc.
Okay, so I want to try something, and if you'll humor me for a moment, I would love to try these two wines side by side. And you're telling me they're different. The reserve is much better, different combination of the grapes, different oak.
Yep. Everything.
So let's do it.
Okay.
Where
do you start?
So I have the left bank in my left hand.
Okay. I don't have the Vintner's Reserve, which I would love to have. Which is, he's got.
Can we have one for the winemaker too?
I gave you 2 glasses.
Oh, these
they're
both
reserve.
Oh, cool. Let me get my left bank back. Oh.
Okay.
All right, guys. All right.
Can you pour me a little more left bank so I can do a taste along with?
So before we actually put this in our mouth,
okay,
I'd like for you to sort of give sort of the perspective. You know, let's say there's someone out there that's watching who, you know, they like wine, they tried wine, but they're not really a wine expert quite yet. What should they be looking for when they're tasting the wine on their first sip and the approach?
Well, you know, you've seen everybody does this. They sniff the wine. One of the reasons you sniff the wine is because taste is largely olfactory in nature. So that gives you sort of the essence of the wine. You know, if you're kind of a wine geeky person, you know, you start to get off into what sort of olfactory stimulation you get from it, like what sort of fruits. Black cherry comes across in the reserve a lot. In the left bank, it's much more restrained. You don't get that bigger cherry out of the left bank.
It's a little cherry.
It might actually be a raspberry.
I taste it. It's a little on the tart side.
It is, and this because it's more predominantly the Cabernet grade.
Oh, I got you.
Which has a different flavor profile than the Merlot grade. So, and it's interesting because I don't, tell people what I smell in the wines. I like people to tell me, because everybody tastes something different. Everyone smells something different. So I say, all right, man, what do you smell in there? You tell me what you smell in there.
All right. Well, I'm gonna answer that question. I smell. I smell a little blackberry.
That's a good one.
And,
a lot of people do that.
And so I'm smelling the left bank right now, a little blackberry. I also smell some fruit. It reminds me like an apricot.
An apricot's a good one. Peach sometimes. You get a little bit of peach out of here sometimes. Okay, so the first thing you do is it's all smell. The second thing you do is you put it in your mouth and you kind of swish it around. You want to coat your whole tongue. Use your tongue. The receptors in your tongue are different at the tip, the mid, and the back. And you'll notice that you get a slight twinge toward the back. I do. You get a nice entry, which people talk about the entry, the mid palate, and the finish.
Sorry, can you say that again? The
entry.
Entry?
Entry.
Oh, entry.
Entry, mid palate, and finish.
So like the tip of your tongue, the middle of your tongue, the back of your tongue?
First thing you taste, what you get sort of in the middle, the mouth feel, there's mouth feel, there's different descriptors. And then the finish, how it finishes, how long the finish is, how long that taste lasts in your mouth.
Is that kind of like the tingly feeling I get in my brain too? Is that part of the finish?
That's called drinking a lot of alcohol.
Oh, okay. Well,
that's different.
Well, I work in the wine industry, so.
I know. It's hard to stay straight.
Rough life for us.
I hate it. I really do. That's why I just grudgingly do this.
All right. So now I've now switched over and now smelling the reserve.
Okay. So what do you smell?
It smells different. That's the first reaction I have.
I'm just mixing smells here. I always smell something a little different when I tell the wine. It's just depends on the day, what the allergy load is.
I don't know. It's a weird descriptor, but it's my palate, so shoot me if you hate it.
No, I love it.
Buttered popcorn.
Wow, I don't ever get that, but I'll try it. Let me see. I heard somebody else say something about buttered popcorn the other day, and I don't know who it was. I don't remember who it was, but
wait, is that from the wine? Wait, hold on.
Maybe it's from the glass. Have you been drinking popcorn?
Brandon, are you making popcorn? No, he's not. It's in the wine.
It's everybody gets something a little bit different. And an interesting fact, a little tidbit, is that women have incredibly more sensitive olfactory nerves than men do. So many women are much better tasters than men. And I love to listen to the women. They pick up notes like, oh, I get a little bit of, let's see, I get a little lavender in this, or I get a little bit of white peach, a really white peach instead of like Freestone peaches. But it's really interesting to get all that, and I learn something every day from somebody else tasting the wine. Buttered popcorn.
And so, what is it that causes these smells and these flavors? Because you're not actually putting like fruit into the wine. There's no point other than grapes. You're not introducing any other fruit to this wine.
A lot of that comes from the growing conditions, and I mean, phenolics are what create the olfactory.
Phenolics?
Phenols.
Okay. Phenols. Okay.
That's a geeky question.
It's good. It wasn't even from the customer.
That's a geeky question.
You're something this expert.
So that's kind of what creates those olfactory sensations. Okay. And depending upon how the phenol chain breaks down within the structure of the wine and how that wine is treated while it's being fermented and barreled. You know, and all those things have distinct influences. The wood has a distinct influence, the yeast load. You know, anytime that you have additions to the wine that, you know, you may have to add some things to the wine while they're fermenting to make sure the fermentation continues. There's the science of it. All those things play into creating all these, you know, monobranched and polybranched saccharides and phenolics. And so they all have a slightly different aroma to them. And that's what you get out of any kind of fruit. And so you have these similarities to other fruits in the fruit spectrum. And
Gotcha.
you know, you can actually, they have instrumentation that can actually break that down and show you a circular graph of how that looks. And if you so desire, you could tailor how you make that wine to fit that profile. I don't do that.
Yeah.
I don't do that.
So, you know, one thing that that a lot of people confuse, and it confuses me sometimes too, is I'll smell a wine, it'll taste fruity, and I'll expect it to be sweet. But then when you taste it, it's not sweet. And I guess that goes to what you're saying, is that the taste is actually occurring in your nose.
Correct.
And, or sorry, the flavor is occurring in your nose. Then the actual sweetness is happening on your tongue.
Sweet, sour, and tart. That's pretty much what you get out of your tongue.
So your tongue's not tasting any flavors.
No.
That's your nose.
That's olfactory.
So you said sweet, sour, tart.
Yeah, that's pretty much what you get out off your tongue.
Okay.
You know, you get bitterness off your tongue. You know, you'll get sweet off your tongue, and you get sour off your tongue.
Sweet, sour is acidic.
Acidity would create itself in that astringency that you get.
Astringency. Okay.
You get this. Sometimes you get a really astringent bite out of your tongue. You'll feel it kind of. Kind of imagine throwing some alcohol on a cut. You get that astringency. Translate that to your tongue. And
okay, that's a great analogy.
So that's the astringency you'll get.
All right, so this leads into sort of another question we have. So Henry N. from Cleveland, Ohio, his question is, many lower end red wines taste overly sweet. Why is that? Is it a function of the grape juices, the fermentation, or is something done to the wine after fermentation is complete? Now, you sort of touched on that when we talked about the whole bricks situation, but now that we're talking about the tongue, you know, why is it that lower end wines would be more sweet than, you know, let's say one of these higher end wines, which it smells fruity and smells good, but it's not sweet when I drink it. Why is that?
Am I allowed to give away trade secrets for marketing?
Please.
Okay. If you want to create an audience for wines, and you want to get people interested in wines that are, and you want them to upsell them at a later date. It's kind of similar to Porsche. You buy a Volkswagen.
Okay.
You know, then they upsell you to the Audi. And then pretty soon you get a Porsche, right? So they get you used to the easy to drive car. So you want to get the easy to drink wine. People who aren't, and I don't mean this in a derogatory fashion whatsoever, but a level of sophistication comes with drinking wine and tasting wine and becoming educated as to the wine and just spending some time. It's just like any other discipline. You spend time with it, you start to create a different palate. Your palate changes as your tastes change. You know, maybe you're fine driving that Volkswagen forever, but as you get a little older, make a little more money, you know, a little Audi might look, it's a little more comfortable. So you want to upgrade to that. So the wines that are less expensive tend to be made out of lower quality grapes. In order to offset the lower quality of the grapes, they tend to be sweeter, which means that sometimes there's a little bit of residual sugar left in. They don't go 100% to dryness. And dryness is a specific gravity measurement. Okay. You want it to be basically the same specific gravity as water. That means that you have no alcohol, no sugar left to have the yeast eat.
So that's the winemaker's goal, is to make the wine as light as water?
Not as light as water, but as dry as water. Now that's what you call dryness in a wine. When you have sugar in a wine, it's not as dry. It's more sweet. Most people like sweet things more than they like bitter things. If you go, that's why people eat candy, a lot of it. That's why people eat desserts, a lot of those. They like those desserts. You know, they don't necessarily like something that's got savory and bitter. You know, if you think about it, would arugula be the first salad you'd ever want to try if you were a salad kid?
No, definitely not.
You probably want iceberg lettuce.
Because I probably wouldn't want any type of rabbit food when I was a little kid.
Okay, well, you don't count that. But you pick.
But yeah, it's like eat your peas and carrots, and all of a sudden it's like, oh, now eat your radicchio. And
right, or like, instead of carrots are great because carrots are sweet.
Yeah.
You know, peas aren't quite as sweet. You get into asparagus, it's definitely not sweet. So it's the same analogy though. Carrots have sugar in them. They're easier and more palatable to people who are beginning to eat vegetables. Sugary wines, sweeter wines are more palatable to people who are beginning to drink wines. It's a great way to introduce them. So it's creating a mass market. So, and it's at a lower end, so it's more accessible to more people. And as the people become desirous of educating themselves and moving forward and learning, then they start to go to the more expensive wines. And they're more expensive because the grapes are more expensive. To give you just a brief overview of that, Central Valley Lodi grapes, which is California, so I'll just use all California. You can buy those grapes for $300 per ton.
$300 per ton.
Per ton, okay.
It's a lot of grapes for $300.
It is. Now you go to Napa Valley and you can pay $7,000, $8,000, $10,000, $15,000, $20,000 per ton. Same grape.
$300 versus $20,000?
Yeah.
That blows me away.
And that's why people want to know why Napa Valley wines are so expensive. It's the raw product. It is like the difference between that Volkswagen and that Porsche. They're both made by the same company. Why is one $150,000, the other $15,000? Can you tell me that?
I could not. I'm guessing better materials.
Maybe. I'd say probably so.
And
better
probably
workmanship.
Probably better marketing.
Better workmanship too. They're better marketing, no doubt. But you know, it's the workmanship that goes into it.
I gotcha.
3 years in the barrel. I mean, I can't sell this wine for 3 years. So it's not just 3 years in the barrel, but then it's how long in the bottle after that before I'm willing to sell it. You know, whereas some of these less expensive wines, they make them, they bottle them, they're out the door in 60 days. But done.
You know, I've got to give a shout out to Bob L. from Texas, who pretty much asked the question that you just answered, which was, I found that many Napa Valley wines are more expensive than surrounding regions. Why is that? And any tips on finding a great deal? So the second part of his question, which is, you know, any tips on finding a great deal? Because you said Napa Valley grapes can go up to 20,000 a ton
or more.
So are there tricks? Like, are there wines from Napa that aren't $20,000 a ton? Therefore, you know, the bottle press and the shelf won't be that, but the grapes still came from Napa. Or is there some other trick where someone can get great wines that maybe aren't so sweet, that are, you know, where can a guy who wants a Porsche go to get that Porsche on the cheap?
You can buy a used Porsche.
Okay, but I don't know how you're gonna buy some used wine.
You're not gonna buy used wines. No, it's not a trick question. And Napa Valley wines are more expensive because the raw product is more expensive. And quite frankly, you know, most of the Napa Valley winemakers take a lot of care in producing their wines. They really try to produce the best possible wines they can. That means, you know, expensive barrels. A lot of the less expensive wines don't even go in the barrel. They're fermented in stainless steel. They're put into a bottle. They never see oak, or they may have some oak additives put in. I mean, there's a lot. Yeah.
Hey, people do that? They like inject oak flavor into the wine?
Yes, they do.
You don't do that.
We don't.
Good.
No, not at all. But it's done at the
Wow.
lower end because it's possible to do it.
Interesting.
Better
So
living through chemistry.
So when we're looking at your wines, and specifically, you know, this left bank and this reserve, where were these grapes from?
Okay. My winemaking style calls for a lighter style wine, a much more elegant, complex wine, something that you're going to appreciate especially if you're a little bit more sophisticated wine taster. So in order for me to create what I wanted when I moved to the Napa Valley, and I think that there's a lot of people can see this. If you're growing the grapes on the valley floor, there's a lot of rich soil on the valley floor because it's old riverbed. My grapes grow on the mountains.
Interesting.
So the valley floor is about 300 feet.
Which valley?
Napa Valley.
Okay.
Valley floor about 300 feet. My grapes come from about 1,800 feet above on the top of a mountain.
Nice.
Cobbly, rocky, hilly. Just if you took 2 vines and you put one on the valley floor, it'd be kind of like putting one in a perfectly potted, taking a flower and put it in a perfectly potted soil on your back deck in perfect sun, putting some Miracle Grow in it, letting it go to town, and then taking one over here and putting in a bunch of gravel. Now, which plant do you think would do best?
One would think that the one in the perfect conditions would grow better.
And it would. The ones up here, in order to have that grow, that plant has to really struggle. So one of the things from my perspective is the wines that have to grow and struggle and take a long time to get ripe, they have a sort of a more, I call it a linear ripening curve. It takes longer, they don't get really ripe and go back down. They actually have to struggle to get there. And my grapes hardly ever get, and I'll use the bricks term, they hardly ever get above 24 bricks.
So times 0.55, your wines hardly ever get above 13% alcohol.
13. These are 13.7, 13.8, somewhere in the neighborhood.
Nice.
Okay, and then down the valley floor, they have all these nutrients that they can draw upon because they have all this alluvial soil from years of being washed down off the mountains, collects on the valley floor. So they have a better growing situation. So they tend to be richer and fruitier. And this is one of the things that a lot of people notice about Napa Valley wines. These days, the Napa Valley wines are really, really fruity, really, really big. The term fruit bomb is something that's thrown around a lot. And if you taste a fruit bomb, you will know that it just blows up in your mouth. It tastes almost like you're drinking Welch's grape jelly.
Yum.
Yum.
I mean, maybe not in a wine glass, but.
Well, but that's where that sweetness we were just talking about, right? You get that sweetness because of the sugar, because of all the alcohol, all the richness in that. Mine are lean. I mean, it's like the difference between an athlete that runs at 10,000 feet and a weightlifter who lifts weights at 0 sea level. This guy's bigger. This guy's really lean.
Yeah, I gotcha.
Stronger, leaner. So there's the leanness of that fruit. The Diamond Mountain, which is an incredible AVA in the Napa Valley, which is where I get my grapes from. Diamond Mountain is a great spot. I have really old vines. I have high fruit. It takes a long time to ripen. It's steady, it's slow ripening, and the flavor of the fruit actually gets to develop. So that's one of the things about my wines. It's my style.
So your wines come from Diamond Mountain, which is what's considered an AVA of Napa Valley.
Yep.
And then Napa Valley is considered an appellation.
Napa Valley is considered a growing region.
Okay. So can you break that down for people? So your wine, the most specific classification is the mountain that it comes from, right? Would be called.
You can get really, really specific and call it from the vineyard it comes from.
Okay, and then even more, you could say which plant.
The row it comes from.
Which
block
bunch?
it comes from.
Oh, block.
The block is. You can actually say, if I pick my grapes out of a block of fruit that I get every year, so I can say mine come from block 8.
Is that the number of your block?
Actually, no, it's not. But I can say that it's actually block 2.
Is it?
Yeah, it is block 2. But I can say it comes from block 2 in the Spalding Vineyard on top of Diamond Mountain in the Napa Valley. So the general, California, Napa Valley, Diamond Mountain, Spalding Vineyard, Block 2.
Wow.
You start to get pretty specific.
Okay, so you just unveiled to everyone, Spalding Vineyard is the name of the vineyard where these where these grapes come from.
Correct.
And so this vineyard, you've been in the vineyard, you go look at the grapes and you say, I like this bunch, I like that block. And so when you're making your wine, you're actually picking the grapes.
Yep.
And then Spalding, they also supply grapes to other wineries. Do they make their own wine as well?
No, it's just a vineyard these people have owned for many, many years, and they just grow grapes. They're growers.
See, I think a lot of people don't necessarily realize that some of the best wine producers like you, they're not actually the farmers. Their expertise is in picking sort of the farmers that are going to give them the best juice, the best combination for what their vision is to go in the bottle. Right?
That's a great point. And I think a lot of people, you get these questions all the time. Well, where are your vineyards? And I say, well, I have a lot of different vineyards. I'm not a farmer. I'm not a grower. Mm-hmm. I do not deem to be a farmer. I don't know enough about it. I know what I like, but I heavily depend on the people who've been farming grapes for hundreds of years, literally, to tell me about their growing protocol. And I communicate with them, and we talk about what they're doing with the vineyard and how it's working, and how I'd like to see some things happen. But I heavily depend on them because they're the experts. I'm not. I consider myself the expert winemaker.
Yeah,
that's my expertise. So I take the wines that I get from the vineyard, and then I make them taste like I want them to.
So you're like the artist, and the vineyard is like the paint maker.
Exactly. That's a great analogy.
You like that one? I just came up with it.
Really?
Yep.
Have you ever used it before?
No.
Really? Well, you should use it again. That's exactly what it is.
I'm gonna put that on the website.
It's exactly, Rembrandt, Van Gogh had certain guys that made his paints that he loved because he liked those paints. And so he would get those paints from those guys and use them. A lot of the old Renaissance artists had guys that made their paints for them. Some of the guys actually went and made their own paints, ground their pigments, blended them with linseed oil, made the paints. But those were fewer than people who actually bought the paints.
So this vineyard that you source these grapes from on Diamond Mountain, how many blocks do they have? So you block 2. Wow. Are they like really big? Are they providing to does Screaming Eagle have one of their blocks that they're putting in their wines?
No, there's only one other person that had anything from that vineyard.
Is it a winery that we would know the name of?
You might. Von Strasser Wineries, Rudy Von Strasser.
Okay.
So when I first went out there to make my wine, I ran into this guy in the backyard behind my house. And hey, how you doing? He introduced himself, and we got to talking. He goes, "What are you doing out here?" So I'm going to make some wine. I said, "What kind of wine do you want to make?" And I told him what I really wanted to make: something very Eurocentric, something very lean, complex, sophisticated, elegant. Not over the top. And he goes, "Well, where are you buying your grapes?" And I said, "Well, I don't know. I haven't got that far yet. I just got here." He goes, "Well, I have a guy you should talk to. He's got this vineyard I think might be perfect." So I go and talk to the guy. And he goes, "Well, let's go look at the vineyard." So we go out, and we drive up, and we drive up, and we drive up, and we're going up and up and up and up and up. And the road gets smaller and smaller and smaller. And pulls up and stops in the middle of this dirt, field. And it's pretty far up there, and the ground is gravelly and rocky. And I mean, it just doesn't look like the valley floor for sure. And he said, "Well, this is the vineyard. And, I have all the grapes from this vineyard, but I can't ever use all the grapes in the amount of wine I produce. So if you want to buy some from me, I'll just sell them to you for what I pay for them."
Awesome.
And I said, "Great. I'll take some from that block, and I'll take some from that block, right across the road, because I like the way that looked, and I like the way that looked." And so I said, "I'll take some from there and some from there."
I've heard this before, that a lot of you know, the best wines, you know, the deals came together on a handshake and a hug.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, I think that's really what gives a lot of the wines from Napa Valley their character, is it's a really close-knit community. Everyone wants to help each other.
It's great.
You know, and, you know, especially these, you know, these people that have vineyards, they're farmers at their core, and great people want to be helpful. And so, you know, their ability to help an up-and-coming winemaker, you know, is a lot of what I found is what they're actually going for. You know, making money is great, selling the grapes, the wine, but, you know, to help people and to see other people take their fruit and do something unique with it, you know, is what I've heard. A lot of these farmers are really is what gets them up every day.
One of my really good friends has been farming. His family's been farming forever and ever. He has a really prized vineyard, and he is a farmer, period. Sweetest guy in the world. But he doesn't want to make wine. He only wants to grow grapes. And, you know, he loves to work with the winemakers. Some he doesn't like as much as others, because some are a pain, but he does. I mean, that's what he does. He grows the grapes in concert with the winemaker in order to create what the winemaker wants with the wine. I'm easy because I pick early. I pick so early, you know, there's nobody else around, and everybody else is waiting to pick, and I'm picked out and done. Because I like to pick it when they're right. Okay, let me tell you how I pick fruit, because, you know, this is interesting. You talked about the bricks, and this is a little thing. People, when they write a grape contract, they'll say, we want our grapes to be at 28 bricks.
Well, I thought things happened on a handshake and a hug. Now we're talking contracts?
Well, you have to write a contract.
All right.
You just, you know, you don't have to, but a lot of people do.
No, it's probably a good idea. All right. Do you want?
I want 28 bricks.
28 bricks.
This works for the wine I want to make. I want 28 bricks. Okay, so you go out and you test the grapes, and if they're not at 28 bricks, you don't pick those grapes.
You test by eating them, or use like a little thermometer you put in the grape?
You've seen the guys with a little thing that just looks through the sun, a little refractometer.
I have not.
You had to watch a movie. Somebody's doing that. Sideways.
Oh, yeah, I have seen. Okay, that's what he was doing?
Sideways. That's what he's doing. Checking
right.
specific gravity is what he's doing.
All
Checking
right.
the specific gravity of the juice, and that tells you how much sugar is in it. And that's how you do it. It's just real basic sort of refractometer. So I taste my grapes. I squeeze my grapes. I talk to the grower, say, hey, man, do you think these are ripe? He goes, yeah, I think they're really ripe. It's perfect. And I said, great, well, let's go taste them. And, you know, I had this old Italian guy show me, he goes, this is how I tell grapes are ripe. Pop, squeezes it. Look at the color of the seed. How does it free itself from the skin? You know, how does the pulp come free from the skin? How does the seed come free from the pulp? Those are all the things. And I'll give you another perfect analogy that almost everybody sees. You go to the grocery store and you buy a peach.
Yep.
Okay. If you pick a peach that is a little underripe, it's hard to get away from the seed. It's a little tart, and it's just not, it's a little too hard. It's not quite right. You pick a peach that's perfectly ripe. It comes away from the seed.
Yeah.
It's perfectly sweet. It's not too juicy, but it's perfect. And you pick another one that's overripe and really soft and mushy, and it's really, really sweet, and it's just hard to eat. That's the difference between underripe, ripe, and overripe fruit.
Interesting.
And that's a very perfect analogy. That's the one I use for people, because a lot of people can understand that. Because a lot of people have eaten peaches, and they've eaten underripe peaches, overripe peaches, and perfectly ripe peaches.
Awesome. All right, so you have other wines.
We do.
So on our website today, we're featuring just 2 of the wines that you have. How many wines do you have in total that you still have bottles left of?
I have 4 wines. You're featuring the Vineyards Reserve and the Left Bank on your site. I have a Right Bank, which is a beautiful wine. It's very similar to the Vineyards Reserve in blend.
This is the red bank. And while we're at it, this is a little bottle, a little baby bottle.
It's the samples.
And literally,
so we don't drink too much.
So it has to say sample on it, guys. So this is how he gets to bring wine here and not pay taxes on it.
Well, it's called sample. I drink it. If I drink it, I don't have to pay taxes on it.
Well,
I drink as much as I possibly can. I just put that on there so that somebody doesn't think that they can resell it.
We should put those on every bottle and never pay tax.
I love that.
No, just kidding.
No, the IRS.
We would never do that.
The alcohol, those guys don't talk to you guys.
All right, so we've got the red bank. Sorry, the right bank. And so we've tried the left bank, your reserve.
Mm-hmm.
Now this is the right bank.
Correct.
And so you had mentioned that it comes from the right side of the bank.
The right bank of the river.
The right bank of the river.
The Gironde.
Oh, but this is French. So we're not actually talking about in Napa on Diamond Mountain.
We're talking about right bank pays homage to the type of blend that comes from the right bank of the Gironde River in Bordeaux.
So these grapes are from Diamond Mountain and Napa Valley.
I make the best French style Bordeaux wines from the best grapes in the Napa Valley.
So Napa grapes, Napa winemaker, but in a French style.
In a French style. And the reason I picked the French style is because, quite frankly, it's what I grew up on. This is, I love to drink this wine. We're drinking it without any food. It's an excellent food wine. It goes with
That's the problem, though. I wish we had some food.
Don't you have a restaurant downstairs?
We do.
Well,
let's call someone. Okay. So this is on first sniff, on first taste, is different.
Okay, so let me ask you this. That's the right bank. Do you have any of the reserve left in your glass?
I do.
Okay, so I want you to taste those two next to each other.
I think this is yeah. Okay.
Let me see. Pardon me. I'm gonna step out of the screen here.
Okay, interesting.
Now, these two wines have within 1 or 2 percentage points of exactly the same blend of grapes, all from the same vineyard. Everything was done the same until I decided that these were the best barrels in the reserve, pulled it out, changed the kind of barrels I put them in, and kept it around for an extra year in the barrel. Taste the difference in those two wines.
So the right bank and the reserve are nearly the same breakdown of grapes in the bottle. Just one was an extra year in the barrel.
Actually, it was an extra 16 months in the barrel.
It definitely has more character, like more complexity.
It's more integrated. The tannins are more integrated. The flavors are more integrated. It's got a little bit more richness to it.
It does.
That's the barrel acting on it. And it's the extra time in the barrel.
Very good. All right. So right bank is the right choice. But also the left bank is the right choice.
They're all the right choice.
They're all very good. I mean, I would recommend that people, who are interested should, buy multiple different wines from the same winemaker and really, A/B test, we call it in business, like A/B test the different wines.
Exactly.
Because when you do them side by side, you can really tell the different nuances amongst them.
Exactly.
And, I would have said, if I tried each of these on separate occasion, I would have said, they're all great. But looking at this, I can say, you know what? My favorite is the reserve. And my second favorite is the left bank.
See, that's a great juxtaposition.
Because you would think that if I liked the reserve, I'd probably like the right bank. But I like the left bank. But my favorite is this reserve.
That's a great wine.
And
it's my favorite. That's my reserve. It's my vintage reserve.
Yeah? Boom. All right. So You have white wines here?
I have one white wine that I make.
So we are not selling these on our website.
You're not. So, I mean, you know, in a future date, maybe you'll get a lot of requests for them and you'll have to sell them.
But I want to try them right now.
Okay, so we're going to try.
And so this is our live tasting. And if these blow me away, we potentially will see them on the site in the future. Do you have any you would be willing to part?
We have a few cases left, but this has been so freaking popular.
Oh my goodness.
What do you smell like? What does it smell like?
Is this why you wouldn't let us have any?
What does it smell like? You tell me what it smells like.
Smells like dandelions
Wow, I haven't had dandelions.
blowing in the wind after having some caramel popcorn.
He's like a popcorn fiend. What's
I think I'm hungry.
Do you like going to the movies and having popcorn?
Are you asking me on a date?
No, but I'm sure someone would.
Well, hey everyone out there, I am single.
And he likes popcorn, especially caramel popcorn.
Or buttered popcorn.
Or caramel buttered popcorn, even better.
Like I mean, honestly, I feel like your wines have like this underlying smell of popcorn. Maybe it's like almost like
I don't get any of that
saltiness.
Listen, maybe it's a saltiness. You're right. There's a little bit of minerality in it.
Maybe it's those the minerals. You know, because you were saying it comes from like the Rocky Mountains. Like not the Rocky Mountains, like the Rocky Diamond Mountains.
This is different. This is something that's very, very different.
This does not come from Diamond Mountain?
This comes from 4 different vineyards in the Dry Creek Valley of Sonoma. Because I personally, and this is all opinion, it's me personally, it does not necessarily express the opinions of the station which we're broadcasting. But I think that the climate for white wines, and this is a Sauvignon Blanc, 100% Sauvignon Blanc from 4 different vineyards in the Dry Creek Valley.
Okay.
This particular grape does not grow well in the Napa Valley. The climate is a little too hot. Sonoma coast wines, the climate is 10 to 15 degrees cooler, and that makes all the difference in the world. To me, this is a very, very, again, it's a very Sancerre, French style Sauvignon Blanc. It's not grassy. It doesn't have any of that New Zealand grass to it. This is very much, again, a French style Sauvignon Blanc. And this is one of my also favorite wines. And this was an accidental wine, I gotta tell you.
Accidental?
Accidental wine. Story. This buddy of mine bought these grapes, and he didn't have a winemaker, so he said, hey, would you make this wine for me? And I said, yeah, sure, I'll do that. But I've never made a white wine. He goes, well, you know, but I like your style, and I think that you could probably make a good white wine. I said, okay, I'll give it a try. So we made this wine. It comes time to, he has to pay me for my services. And he goes, well, you know, what do I owe you? I said, you know, I really, really like this wine. It turned out, I mean, better than I would have imagined it would have done. You know, how about if you just give me 2 barrels of this wine as payment?
He said, ha, no way.
No, he said, great, I love it. Because see, he's getting a hell of a deal.
He did.
And I'm getting a hell of a deal because I got some great wine. Now, this year, I did it a little differently. This year's my own stuff. And it's going to be very similar from the same vineyards. I'm tweaking it just a little bit to make it a little bit different than this year.
Tell Underground Cellar exclusive.
Okay.
How are we tweaking this Sauv Blanc to make it a little bit better for next year?
This is all in oak. This is all in what they call neutral French oak. So
Okay.
neutral French oak are old barrels that don't have a whole lot of flavor left to them, but they're still oak and they're still French. So they don't impart a lot of that oakiness that you get in a lot of those white wines, like the Chardonnays that go so buttery and oaky and vanilla-y. It doesn't have a lot of that in it. But I like a little more edgy to my wine. So I did 20% of my Sauv Blanc this year is in stainless steel. So we'll get any oak imparted to it. It will be 100% stainless steel. So we'll do 20% stainless steel and 80% French oak. And that's going to give it a little bit more lean character and a little bit more edginess. And we did some blending and some testing We just barreled this down a couple months ago, I think. We just put it in barrel, and we did a little testing right then, and it's just like this year is going to be fucking awesome.
I'm excited. When will that be ready to try?
It'll be ready to try in the spring. It's going to be a fun summer wine. This is a great summer wine. You can drink this all day long by the pool.
Will you set aside a few bottles for our members?
I think we have 15 or 20 cases of this left, which is all we have left. How many cases do you want me to set aside for you guys?
Like all of them? This is amazing. I'll have my people talk to your people.
Have your people. Let's see what we got.
Figure something out.
All right, figure something out, because this is like, God, it's just been going out the door. I mean, I made 65 cases of this, and we have like 15 left or something like that.
Wow.
And we've just released it like a couple of months ago, 3-4 months ago. So it's like flying out the door. We have real limited production. I mean, this is kind of like a cult wine before it's a real cult. So you can get it on the cult before it's really a cult.
Exactly. And we actually had a question that's sort of related to that. Let me find it real quick. The question was, I can't seem to find it on my list, but the question was, oh, here it is, from Janet from Arizona. She says, what does small production actually mean? So you had mentioned that you don't make very much of it.
Right.
Is there, like, if you make less than 1,000 cases, you're small production? Is there are you small production? Do you consider yourself?
We're really small production. We make, I think in 2011, we bottled a little over 200 cases. That's pretty small. That's minute. Small production generally in the industry refers to something, 5,000 cases or less. And that sounds like a lot of wine, but that's really not. 5,000 cases is not a lot of wine. You think about WD winery that makes 2 million cases of wine.
D?
Yeah.
Well, are we not saying the name?
I don't know. I can't. We could, but I probably wouldn't get in trouble.
D.
All right. Once upon a time, these guys wanted me to go to work for them, and well, it's more dots than that. And I said, wow, this is a really big facility. You guys are a big winery. You guys make 980,000 cases a year.
Are we talking Robert Mondavi?
No.
Are we talking Rombauer?
No.
Are we talking Ravenswood?
Yes.
Boom. Third guess.
I didn't say it. So I said, you guys are a big winery. He goes, no. We're kind of a small winery at 1 million cases a year.
1 million cases a year. Oh my God.
So but small production generally refers to something under 5,000 cases.
But
there's a huge spread in there. Obviously, we're at 200. We're increasing a little every year as demand goes up. We're going to stay at definitely under the 5,000 case mark. That's going to be 10 years down the road, maybe, if we're lucky. But we're getting ready to bottle our 2012 left and right bank, probably in the next month or so. We're going to be bottling about 150 cases of that, and then we'll bottle about 75 cases of our right bank. I mean, our vendors reserve next year, because it has to stay that extra year in the barrel. The 2012 has been in the barrel for 24 months now. Then we'll do the Sauvignon Blanc, so we'll be at about 350 cases next year, growing very, very steadily, very slowly.
Yeah.
Very small.
So, along with the actual just quantity numbers, there's sort of a quality aspect that comes along with a small production winery as well.
Here we go. Look, you had another question up here about filtration.
Yeah, where did that one go?
I don't know, but
after all this wine, it's hard to find them. Oh, here. Here, Kelly from Nevada says, why don't you read it, Keith? I'm going to drink some wine.
I read that you feel that filtration is an unnecessary step. But don't you need to remove the bad stuff in wine like dirt? Well, hopefully we don't have a whole lot of dirt in the wine. Brilliant. And actually the dirt actually settles out, all that stuff as it's fermenting settles to the bottom, and then you just take the stuff off the top. You always leave a little wine in the lees This is what it calls the lees in the bottom. So, you start off with 60 gallons in a barrel, and you might get 56, 57 gallons out.
Okay.
So that's like throwaway.
You like leave all the dirt and bird poop in the bottom?
Well, and all the dead yeast cells and anything that just sort of falls down. The dead flies, all that kind of stuff.
For real? Like,
yeah.
I mean,
fruit flies.
Okay, so you don't filter, you just leave the gunk in the bottom of the barrel.
What I do is it goes through what they call a bug catcher, which is
technical name?
That's the technical name.
Okay, the bug catcher.
Bug catcher actually just filters out that stuff, but it's not the fine filtration that you get in a lot of these. A lot of places go through what they call sterile filtration. You can get the apertures in a filter down to so small amount of microns that it will actually filter out molecules.
Wow.
It will filter out molecules of taste and color. You can take a red wine and it will turn out pink on the other end, just by the filter.
That is,
I swear to God,
pretty intense.
But so we do that minimal filtration because it doesn't really affect the wine. It just catches the bugs, and the wine's got alcohol in it. It's fine.
Yeah.
It's got sulfur in it because all wines have naturally occurring sulfites. And that's what it says on the bottle. It says, contains sulfites. All wine.
All right. So, when we talk about filtration, it sort of leads to this. It sort of leads to this question of organic, biodynamic. Are you biodynamic? Do you believe in that? There's a lot of people say, oh, biodynamic and organic doesn't actually mean anything. It's a marketing thing. Like, what's your stance on terms of like you don't filter, so that kind of makes you on the side of the things that are like organic?
Okay, yeah, you could say that. I'm bioharmonic.
Bioharmonic?
Bioharmonic.
You're the first person I've heard use that term. So help me and everyone else in the Underground Cellar Nation understand what the heck you're talking about.
As far as I know, there's only 2 bioharmonic wine guys in the country.
Okay.
And it's and my friend Mike Beatty is the father of bioharmonics, and I am his son of bioharmonics.
Okay.
Bioharmonics are actually it's not as woo-woo as it sounds, but it is actually a real sort of deal. I mean, you making wine takes a community. I mean, it takes the grower, it takes the guys that are out there in the field picking it. It takes the guys who bring it into the winery. It takes the guys who crush it. It takes the guys who barrel it down. It takes the guys who take care of everything. Well, everybody has to kind of be on the same team. So everybody has to understand where you're going with the wine. We don't want to put a lot of chemicals on it. We don't want to pick it at the wrong time. We don't want to allow things to go out of balance. So we create this harmonic sort of atmosphere, literally from the ground up all the way through the bottle of the wine. So it's basically bioharmonics. We create the biology of it and create a harmony around the making of it and the bottling and the selling of it. So it's totally bioharmonic.
It's beautiful. I want to bust out a harmonica and just like kumbaya.
Well, you could do that.
All right. All right, guys. So we are approaching the end of the webcast, but I wanted to show you guys one thing real quick. So right now on UndergroundCellar.com, we are featuring Keith Webster's wine, and I'm gonna reload the page. We have 22 bottles left of this deal. So for those of you guys who might just be joining us on Underground Cellar, how we work is you buy a bottle of wine from us. For example, if you buy Keith Webster's $65 Left Bank wine, you are guaranteed to get that bottle or an upgrade. And so you could be upgraded instead of that Left Bank. You could end up with Keith Webster's Vintner's Reserve. So that's a huge upgrade, dude. It is. So not only in value, are we getting at least, you know, like a 30% increase in extra value. But these are the wines that Keith personally tasted from the barrel and said, you know, this barrel, you know, these grapes, this is going to be the highest quality directly from Keith's palate. Plus, he blended it. It's extra special. And when you buy today's deal, you are guaranteed that 4 of your 6 bottles will be upgrades. So when you buy 6 bottles right now, 2 of them will be Keith's Left Bank blend. The other 4 will be randomly picked, either from his Vineyards Reserve, or you might even end up with one of Jocelyn's wine, like their Speletic Reserve Cabernet. We also pulled some strings today, and we got Bryant family to throw in a $450 2009 bottle. This Bryant family bottle, it's rated 97 points. And, you know, this bottle is $450. But quite honestly, any bottle you buy from this deal is going to be amazing Cabernet wine, or at least, you know, Cabernet blend. And, you know, I've been sitting here drinking these Keith M. Webster cellar wines, and I can personally attest that you guys will want to get in on this deal. Now, I have a question. I have a question, and I'm putting you on the spot. So we see that there's 22 bottles left in this deal.
Yes.
If someone were to buy a case of wine right now, and if they were happen to be upgraded to one of your bottles, would you, and now you can say no, I'm putting you on the spot, would you autograph one of their bottles for them?
Oh, fucking A, sure.
Yeah? All right, you guys hear that. Go ahead, buy some bottles from this deal.
I'll even like put a special message on it, like whatever.
Okay, so I said 12 bottles. Let's say if someone buys 6 bottles, will you do it?
Oh, hell yeah. Why not?
All right, guys, 22 bottles left. Buy 6 bottles from this deal. Keith Webster himself will autograph one. And, you know, the only problem when he autographs a bottle is that you're not going to want to drink it. But trust me, you're going to want to drink it.
You can save the empty bottle. That's kind of cool, too.
That actually works. You can drink it, then save it.
Drink it and save it.
All right, guys. Hey, everyone out there, Underground Cellar Nation, thank you for tuning in for our broadcast with Keith Webster from Keith M. Webster Cellars. What?
I said, cheers, mate.
Oh, cheers, mate. Yeah. See you guys next time. And drink up, be safe, and have a nice night. See ya.